As an experiment, we gave our team access to one Claude Max account, shared. Saved money, may be a great idea. Well, that was until somebody's cowork session started pulling files and opening up browser tabs on somebody else's machine. That's when we realized this experiment absolutely failed, and we're going to stick with the Claude Teams plan.
Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations. I get it. Whenever you are looking at team versus personal, the team account has a minimum of 5 users. And yes, it costs a little bit more. It ranges from $25 per month per user to $125 per month per user. But it is not the same as just chatting with AI. And if you're not making or saving at least $125 per month using Cowork, I promise you, you are doing it wrong.
So, Elaine, you've probably heard this story a bunch of times, but when I was younger, my grandpa owned a business. My dad worked for him. And because of this, I grew up hearing this story over and over and over, especially because now I've owned several businesses. And sorry, Dad, but he loves telling me this story. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially their CPA told him, hey, when times are tough, when you want to save money, you just got to look at this and say, if I spend money, is that going to make money? And if it doesn't, don't buy it. And I think about that a lot all the time, not just because it was repeated to me as I grew up and as I started getting into entrepreneurship and business, but because there's a lot of times you look at a cost, you look at something and you go, I don't know, should I buy this? Should I spend money on this? But to me, this 100%, well, I'm talking about Claude and more specifically the team account here. Will it make me money? Oh, yeah. Will it save me the money? Will it bring me a return on investment? Absolutely. Now, we talked a lot about this in a previous episode about how to spend on software and how to think about buying software in different ways. And to me, and I think you're in the same boat, Elaine, like this completely falls in that category. Like, no matter how high the costs seem at first, when you really start to analyze what you're getting out of this, what you're doing to support your team, how you're able to get stuff done better and faster, it's worth it.
It really is. We definitely, Micah, as business partners, agree on this with investments in software to help ease efficiency, knowledge, bottlenecks. And, if we can find a software that'll help alleviate some of those things, then we are looking at it as extremely valuable and helps us scale, helps keep the team, even the mental load. And that's what I really see with Claude Cowork is the mental load that we have to carry with knowledge on context with our clients or ourselves and even our branding. And it just helps alleviate all that. And we can not just execute faster, but our team we can communicate with them faster.
Yeah. There's a couple of standout software, just to like a super quick tangent. I'm thinking about the last 20 years. One, like Google Workspace with Google Docs. I remember when that came out and we could write at the same time. And now this feels so long ago, but being able to work on the same doc at the same time and then comment and have threaded comments and have all of this here, that was revolutionary. When we implemented that, that was like our team coming back to us going, this is amazing. Love this. Awesome. Ticketing system, right?
Love a ticketing system.
Yes. When we implemented that, what did we hear from our team? Holy crap. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, Micah, we're going to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I remember when we did the merger and I presented it to the account management team and they were just very adverse to trying it. And I'm like, guys, give me a week. Just give me a week in it. And if we hit any moment that you're going, this is a bad idea, we'll reevaluate. By the end of that week, they were floored. Managers could jump in and help their team. And it just made things so much easier instead of forwarding things back and forth between different departments or team members. That's our little minor tangent. Let's get back on track.
Yeah. Well, I share all that to say we're seeing that happen now. specifically with Cowork, we're getting Slack messages. I'd say Slack was the other one too.
Yeah,
Implementing
yeah.
Slack was a big one in the chat, but we're getting Slack messages. We're getting our team members going, "I love Claude Cowork," and things like "Work is so much fun again," and it's all caps. That's why I'm
Mhm.
yelling it in Slack. But it's this same occurrence. Like the team loves it because it's solving their problems that can only be done with software.
So, Micah, let's talk a little bit about with Claude Cowork. We started this episode saying that we did an experiment because one of the
Yes.
questions that we get so often, because clients or people don't want to just waste money on software. So, it's not that they don't see the value in it, but if there's a corner I can cut or a way to keep this lean from an accounting perspective, I want to be there. So the question that we would get is, does every person on my team need their own account? Or do I need this Teams version that's more expensive and has a minimum of 5 users? Can I share accounts? And so that's why we did this experiment of, does it make sense to share accounts between maybe your departments? Like we did it between the marketing team and our development team. And so, does it make sense to share accounts? And we found very, very significant reasons as to why you do not want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, first and foremost, if you're only using chat, you're not going to probably run into a lot of these issues. But if you're only using chat right now, you need to really think about maybe I shouldn't just be using chat right now. Maybe I really need to look at what else is out there because this Q1 2026 trend is clear across the board. Every single platform is going to a co-work type situation.
Mhm.
And when you introduce co-work and you have shared accounts, as our experiment proved, it gets really messy really quickly. So one of the things that we ran into, which that I think that was like, all right, experiment over. We're
It
calling this
wasn't a
off.
long
Like,
experiment.
yeah, can't do this anymore. Was when we got reports from one team member that their browser was randomly opening into tabs being powered by Claude Cowork, and they weren't starting that. It was because somebody else on that shared Cowork account was trying to get the browser tab to open up on their machine, but it was just getting cross pollinated, who knows, into the other user's actual desktop, actual browser tab, and opening stuff up and trying to do things. So that's when we're like, yeah, no, this is not happening anymore. We immediately shut that experiment down. That's when we shifted everybody back to the Teams account.
Yeah, and I wanna make one more point on why the shared account absolutely does not make sense. And when we're talking about the value of Cowork over chat, one of the biggest things that Cowork has is the automation capability with connectors. So you can connect it to your email or your Asana, your Monday, your ClickUp, your HubSpot. You can connect it to these things so that once you get an output that you want, you could push it to that system or it could draft an email for you. Well, it's connected to a specific login. So if you're wanting to push it to your ClickUp, it's pushing, it doesn't have your user necessarily to push it to if you're on a shared account between 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, you're missing out on the true core value of Cowork. It can't co work with you.
Yeah, it's a little better than chat, but you're really just using a chat feature if you're not using the connector.
Yeah. So I think, the real question of this is one, we'll get into in a second of like, what is the what is the true difference between team and personal plans? But for the most part, like if you're less than 5 people, maybe don't share an account, maybe individual personal accounts is fine for now if you're looking to cut costs and save some money. But if you're at 5 people or more, including contractors or anybody else who might be using this that could benefit from it, definitely look at the team plan for Claude.
Mhm. There's a few, like, nitty-gritty pieces or maybe not even nitty-gritty, but things that you get in the team plan that you don't get in the personal plan. It's a team plan, So you get to benefit from your other team members.
Yes.
So that is in and of itself valuable. So one thing that Claude Cowork has are skills. Now it comes with some skills and which is nice, but you can also create skills. And Micah and I have already been experimenting before we rolled it out to the team. So we already have some skills created that are completely reusable with our other team members doing similar work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think about it like this. If you were to have your own personal Gmail accounts and try to operate a team in a business with that, right? You have, Elaine, you have your personal Gmail account. I have my personal Gmail account. I have my drive. You have your my drive. Like we have our separate calendars. There's no easy way to share calendars. There's no shared drive. Like, can we make it work? We can make it work for a little bit. Is it a complete pain in the butt? Absolutely, it is. Would it be worth just upgrading to the workspace Google's version of Claude Team? Absolutely. And, we started on that and instead of trying to save money early on in this business because that was such a pain in the butt to not have those features and the functionality of being able to share. And Claude Team is the same way. Like you're
Mhm.
saying, Elaine, like, why don't we just share the skills? Why don't we share the projects? Why don't we, as founders, have control over the connections and the plans that the individual members are on? The extra cost is absolutely worth the ability to have this sharing mentality. Being able to say these connections are okay and these are not, rather than just having it Wild West for any of the different plans that people are on within your team? Yes, please.
I think of just offboarding employees too. You have
Yeah.
this gives you control. Just like when you offboard an employee in your Gmail, you delete that as a user or archive it as a user, however your function is. But you have that control. All of that data is still housed within the company account. And that is also the value of a Teams account whenever employees are going to leave. That's going to happen. And so you have that control. You're not losing that data. You don't have them changing a password on a different account and you not being able to access it and get your credit card removed and having to do a bunch of headache work. It just gives you more control as a company, which when we're talking about AI is really important to me as an owner.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, as we're kind of talking through this, Elaine, I realize that things move so fast in AI that I can understand where these questions come from. And I think it's because you and I are in a position where we can run these experiments, try this stuff out, jump into co-work right away and see what it's all about. And every single one of these layers that we're talking about, like going from chat to co-work, that's a scary leap. And I know when we first started talking about it, I jumped into co-work and I was trying to explain it to you going, you got to see co-work. It's amazing. You're like, what's the difference between co-work and chat? And
Yeah,
at
didn't
first
get it.
it's a
I was
little
like,
hard to
just stop
explain.
talking. Let me just go in and do it.
And
And
but you
I mean,
did. You went
immediately.
in, started using it, and you're like, oh, look at all this cool shit I'm building.
Mhm. I mean, it's really amazing. Micah, we glossed over for a second, so I wanna go back talking about the control over connections, because you
Yes.
and I know what we're talking about in that, but the connectors are what are teams allowed what software platforms are they allowed to connect in their Claude Cowork account?
Yes. Yes. So a great example of this is I think it was yesterday, maybe a couple days ago. AI timelines are crazy, so I can't even keep track of them. But a new connector was announced, Airtable, which is a super powerful
Party
connector,
time.
right? Well, do you as a decision maker, as a leader, as a founder, as a manager, do you want everybody on your team to be able to connect up to Airtable with Claude Cowork and build their own Airtable solutions and interfaces? Or do you want to have a little bit of control over that and be like, nah, we're not randomly building Airtable solutions because our Airtable costs are going to go skyrocket. Let's nip that in the bud and we're just going to turn off that connector. And when we get to a point where we know what we want to build with Airtable, we're going to build that. We're going to create a system. We're going to train people on that. And we're going to do this systematically instead of just hey, free reign, everybody, go connect, go have it do whatever you want. And that applies to every single potential connector out there.
Yeah, so we made it when we started moving over to the Teams. Some of them we already knew that we wanted, like ClickUp, we can turn that
ClickUp,
on.
Gmail,
Yeah,
calendar.
have those turned on so the team can have it. And then as the team started using it, they would ask permission, hey, can you go in and turn this connector on? And then we could have the decision like, yes, that's fine, and go turn it on. Or actually, we don't want that to be a connection. And
Yep. Yep. And without the team plan, you don't have any control over that.
that's a big one. That's worth every penny that we're
Yeah.
paying, honestly. And security is always a big question with owners. How do I
Yes.
keep my data secure? So I think that alone is a value.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to get on a tangent here, Elaine, but I do want to just make the point that everything about rolling this out, everything about Cowork, everything about AI is just further enhancing the need for systems thinking, and
Mhm.
specifically within operations of a business. And I know we've said this time and time again, but we saw this with project management tools. If you just sign up for Asana and give it to your team with no structure, no instructions, no training, no standards, it's a disaster. It's the same thing with AI. It's the same thing with Cowork. If you just say, all right, team, go figure it out, that's not their job. That needs to be your job, or that needs to be somebody's job in your organization that goes, what is the system? What is the training? What are the standards? How are we going to use this? It's that systems thinking. I guess I did go on a tangent.
I mean, I'm getting hives just thinking about that because that is so much time wasted with everybody trying to refigure out how to do things, and they're all going to do it differently. And I guarantee you that's going to happen with this.
Yeah. And if they're all asking Claude on how they could do it, and they're giving different context and different information because you haven't standardized how this is working within your org, they're all going to get different answers. They're all going to go different directions. And what you thought was going to be a productivity boon actually turns into a complete disaster.
Mhm. So let's walk them through what our timeline, but also just what our process was for trying out Claude Cowork. So Micah and you and I were the first ones from the company that decided we're going to try this out. And we both started with the paid personal pro plan because it's only the two of us and we wanted to test it out. So very quickly, Micah, you upgraded to Max, which is the next level in the personal plan options.
Yeah, I think that happened within the first 24 hours using Cowork.
You were building some incredible things too and leveraging it. We talked about Pencil on a previous episode and building out our website, pushing it to Webflow with an MCP. I mean, heavy lifting things as far as what package you're on with Claude Cowork.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't just doing random stuff and going, "Well, I should upgrade to Max now." This was clearly a, "Man, like, this is such a productivity gain for me as an individual that spending an extra $100 is an absolute no-brainer."
We would have spent 10,000 working with a web developer on that. Like
Yes.
that's just such a simple no-brainer option. And then I also started off with the pro plan and I've only hit limits a couple of times. My day looks very different than yours, Micah, and so I didn't have to upgrade. The couple of times that it timed out, I could go and do other work. I joked like, "Oh my gosh, like what am I going to do without my coworker?" But there are parts of my day that I don't need to have cowork, and so it wasn't a big deal. So that's how you can look at it with your team too, is whether you're only a couple of people and you wanna try out the personal plans, you don't have to go all the way to the most expensive plan. You can just upgrade as needed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be my recommendation for sure is start everybody on the pro plan, but communicate with them and say, if you're hitting limits, and this regardless if you're on the personal plan or the team plan, if you're hitting limits, make it okay for them to tell you.
Mhm.
Because then you can have that conversation on what kind of stuff are you building, how are you using it, and immediately determine, is it worth upgrading or are they doing nonsensical stuff and maybe they're trying to like lean too heavy, and again goes back to standards, goes back to training, goes back to all of that. But you want to have that conversation. The worst thing that you could do is say everybody's on a pro plan, people get really excited. They start seeing the benefits, and then they don't feel comfortable telling you that they want to upgrade because they don't
Mhm.
think you'll spend that money and you haven't opened up that door. And now you're just minimizing the benefits. And then likely you'll probably look at this and it'll be your own experiment and
Mhm.
go, oh, this isn't producing the type of results I wanted, but it's all because of a 75 to $100 difference that you wouldn't spend.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, and because I've had that conversation twice this week with people where they need to upgrade an account and they're too scared to have that conversation with the decision maker. Some of this is very inexpensive compared to if you run out of credits or you run out of the plan and you need to upgrade, that means that somebody's doing that work manual. Well, for an extra $75 a month to save you 50 hours of work, like most people, if you could communicate and make the business case of how you're using it and just say, hey, can we upgrade my account? I would imagine most decision makers would be on board with that. Now, if you're using it for personal reasons and you're charting your astrological chart on there, then, then that's not a business case. Like this is definitely a work related where you're using it and you're seeing the value, your team is seeing the value, then just ask or let your team know that it's okay to come to you and say, I'm running out of credits. I need to upgrade. Is that okay?
Honestly, I love this thread that we're going down, Elaine, because even just, hearing you say that is reminding me that even if, like, no matter what, open up these doors and have these conversations because your team is going to think of ways to use this technology that you might not have thought of. Not the astrological sign stuff, but within true business cases. And, honestly, I'm surprised on a daily basis by when this is set up correctly, when standards are put into place, when the second brain is applied so that Claude Cowork can pull the context that it needs when it needs to do the job that you've asked it to do, it does, I hate to say it, it does a better job than any human can do because it's looking at these massive sets of data. It might be looking at deals in a CRM, threads of email, tasks in ClickUp, and notes from its second brain and memory, and connecting dots from all of those things and then mentioning it into a draft email that you asked it to write or a document. And I look at some of the things that it produces and I'm like, holy cow, I would have never connected the dots, let alone taken the time to cross reference all of that. And it's doing it in a second. But then as a human and getting my personal responsibilities done, this is just so much better. That means higher employee satisfaction. That means higher client satisfaction and customer satisfaction. But
Mhm.
those things you're not going to be aware of those things unless you have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So Micah and I did this for a couple of weeks where we just were testing it out as the individual users. I mean, within a couple of weeks, we're like, okay, our team needs this. And we figured out use cases that we can train on. And we did a company training with them. We did the shared account experiment.
Yeah.
And I will say that experiment was very, very short lived.
Yes.
Within days, we found out very quickly that this is not going to work. And we shifted to the team's plan. Now, the team's plan, you have to have a minimum of 5 users. And so if you're less than 5 users at your company, that could be a case for obviously just sticking with maybe the personal plans, but minimum of 5 users, and they have a standard $25 a month plan or a premium $125 per month plan.
Yep. And I will say, just a note for the listeners, even though that's, you know, $5 and $25 more respectively between those plans, those are actually it's more usage. So
Ugh.
it's not equal to the personal plan. Like the standard team plan at $25 is actually more usage than the $20 a month um, pro plan. Too many naming conventions
No, I know. I got
here,
to
but
work it through that in my head too.
just to note that there's actually more usage and it's not a one-to-one from the personal.
And not we mentioned the other ones, but it's not only a usage comparison that you get more usage out of the Teams account, but you do get the control, you do get to set the connectors, You get all those other, you can share skills. So it really is, managing from a team perspective. So you've got extra functionality in there on top of the usage.
Yeah. And I mean, it's to set expectation. This quickly became our highest subscription cost
Hmm.
for software, but probably the most valuable as well.
I know and it's just such a delight to work with.
It's
It's
crazy.
so
It's
fun.
crazy. It's crazy saying this stuff, Elaine.
I mean, even I keep thinking about I was on a call and I was building a ideal customer profile, and those aren't very fun, honestly, most of the time because you're really digging into who is your customer, and a lot of people have ideas, but they don't have anything concrete. And so it's a long process. And we got it done in 30 minutes. Like that made it fun. And it was so incredible to see how fast we could build that out because we could say, Claude, go do the research on this company. This is the ideal client. What is special about this type of company? Then we fed it a LinkedIn profile that said, this is the type of person we want to meet at companies like this. Go find them. And it wasn't digging. It just did it and it made it so pretty and complete and no formatting needed from a person.
Yes. Yeah, where you're just like, it's for a lot of us, we love that idea of idea to execution. And this is finally getting us there
Mhm. I
without
know.
all the time consuming, slow down work, knowledge transfer, like train executive assistants, hire a designer. Like eventually, you're still going to need a lot of those roles. But now it's just abstracted a couple layers. We don't need
Mhm.
them for all the work. We need them for the advanced work.
Exactly. And, it's fine to just like Micah and I, we started off with a personal, the lowest paid option account. I will mention, I don't think we did it yet, that you do need to have a paid version in order to use Cowork. So that is important. Picking a paid plan so you actually get the functionality. People, a lot of times we get asked, like, well, when do we make the switch? I've been using the personal account. When do I make the switch? t- the sooner the better because then you can have those you're giving it a history, you're building out skills, you're doing stuff in the account. The faster that you've vetted that this is something we want to use as a company and moving it to a Teams account, the faster that you get to have the benefits rolled out to your team.
Yeah. And as of this recording, there's no way to transfer personal account information into a team account information. You need to create a new team account, and they make it easy, of course. Smart on them for getting money. But you then need to cancel your personal account. And it's not easy to transfer skills right now. You're not transferring the history. There's the longer you use the personal account in a business setting, the more it's going to take to switch over to the team account. So just something to keep in mind on that side.
This is such a good point, Micah, because I remember one of our teammates, she was so upset, even though they'd only had it for maybe a week. And she's like, well, hold on, I can't get my skills and the history out of my personal one into the team account because you do invest your time and energy into something and you do want it in there. So even that short period of time, we felt that like that roadblock with our team, like, but everything was in my personal account that or the other account that I had, and now I gotta move it.
Yeah. And some of the things you can move, but it's manual, it's copy and paste, like it's a pain in the butt. So our advice throughout this experiment and what we're doing is saying if you're going to move to a team account, move to a team account sooner rather than later. You'll thank us later because it's going to save you a lot of headache.
All right, Micah, I think that we have painted the picture of our experiment pretty thoroughly. Are there any other things that are coming to mind on this topic?
No, I think one, give it a try.
Mhm.
Start small, see where you hit your limits within the personal account just to start and within the pro account just to start. Give your team access, open it up, create that dialogue, figure out what ideas people are sharing. But then when you see that there's going to be a return, make that change, make that switch. It'll be worth the money. If you need help setting things up on this so that you're doing it right, so that you can see a return, so that you can get that second brain, we have all kinds of educational offerings. Reach out to us. this is the world that we're living in for ourselves, for our clients, for our business model. We love this.
hmm And if you're listening to this episode when it launches, we have a Claude Cowork webinar Micah and I are doing. It's free. It's 30 minutes. It is rapid fire. It's so much fun. It's on April 2nd. So we're going to link to that into the show notes. Come and join us. And then if you're wanting to dive deeper in how to actually use it, learn how to build skills, really diving into the benefits and use cases for Cowork, we have a Claude Cowork workshop coming up on April 16th, and we will link to that as well in the show notes.